Hello, I'm Michael Finn, holistic exercise and lifestyle coach. And today I am going to talk about the totem pole of health and performance. This is going to be part one because I'm kind of thinking this is going to be kind of lengthy. So I want to split it up into two parts. So I will put part two down in the description underneath this video so that you can find it there. You will also be able to find these on my website, and I will also put the audio files in the shop download section of my website so that you can download the audio files for free if you like, so that you can listen to this description at the same time, because I'm going to be trying to be as fairly descriptive as I possibly can. All right, so let's move on to what we are going to learn about today. So you're going to learn all the things in life can be stressful. So everything can be. Just a matter of, are we having the right balance of things in our life? And the next thing would be why we need to manage our stress, which I kind of think everybody kind of already has a good idea, but we're going to get a better picture of that today as we go through this. And then we're also going to learn about the hierarchy of the systems in the human body. And when I mean that there are some systems at the top of the totem pole, and there are some systems at the bottom of the totem pole. And the things at the top of the totem pole have a much bigger effect on the things at the bottom of the totem pole than the other way around. All right. So I also want to go through really quickly and say this totem pole was originally created by Paul Chek, and that is where I learned it, through the Chek Institute. And to actually get the full teaching of the totem pole, you pretty much need to go through all of the programs at the Chek Institute to really fully understand it. They start off in small little doses, and then they kind of gradually expand out more and more and more as you go farther through the programs. So if you do a search for Paul Chek, he'll kind of do a similar thing, but he will tell you about all the different courses that you got to go through to kind of, get through this. Well, I've already done that. So, and over the years, he's tweaked it. I want to say he created this somewhere in the mid 1990s. And so it's kind of been tweaked and extra points have been added to, and that's what I'm gonna all cover here, is the whole thing top to bottom. All right. So first, we need to understand about stress management. And so here we have all the kind of basic types of stress. We've got physical stress, we've got chemical stress, we've got electromagnetic stress, we've got psychological stress, we've got nutritional stress, and we've got thermal stress. So all of those, so we have all of these written down here on the left-hand side of the screen, and they all have arrows coming out of them, a red arrow and a green arrow, a red and a green arrow. So, and these arrows come down and they dump into this big funnel here, right? So, and that's kind of like dumping the funnel down into your body. And then your body has to deal with these stresses and manage them and clear them out of the body. So let's give an example. So physical. So working out, or even work, or even really vigorous play, is stress on the human body. All right. So, but we need a certain amount of that to keep us healthy and to keep our body functioning and to keep our muscles strong and to keep our brain strong and to keep good circulation and everywhere. So the green arrow represents the appropriate amount of physical stress that we need to grow and to be strong to do the activities we want to do. The red arrow represents too much physical stress dumping into the body. Okay. So with that, like at the end of a big tournament for me or something like that, I have basically gone beyond the green arrow. I have spent the year doing lots of green arrow physical stress, preparing my body to handle as much of the red arrow over the top stress that I end up putting my body under over the course of a week of tournament. But at the same time, when we have a week-long tournament, the next 2 weeks I take off. And I just do things like Tai Chi and stretching and foam rolling, which is the big green arrow aspect of the physical stress, so that I help my body recover from the stress. All right. So all of these are the same way. So whether it's chemical stress, certain amounts are okay, but too much the body can't deal with, and the body becomes toxic. Electromagnetic stress, there's electromagnetic energy all over the place. Your body is electromagnetic. You have an aura where your body actually creates electromagnetic energy, but it can be disrupted by 5G and Wi-Fi and all these other sort of things. So you need to make sure that you do some grounding work and things like that to counter it. Put some green arrow in to balance out the red arrow. We have psychological stress. That's the whole positive, negative thing, as well as thinking that you can instead of you can't, all that kind of good, simple stuff. Nutritional stress, if we eat crappy food all the time, well, guess what? We're going to get crappy results. So if we eat really great food, then we're going to get better results. So the green arrow is the good quality food, and the red arrow is bad quality food. And we need to make sure that we're managing that appropriately, as well as the red arrow can also be overeating. So there's people out there that eat really great food, but they just eat too much of it. So you can gain weight eating really healthy food if you eat too much of it. So there's that as well. And then thermal is a big one because of like hot and cold. In today's society, so many people live in air conditioning and heating environments to where the temperature is always between 70 and 74 degrees. Well, what ends up happening with that is the body becomes so accustomed to being in that temperature, it actually becomes weaker. And so if you get outside of that temperature zone, it becomes stressful, which is why there's so much talk about cold plunging and cold showers and cold bath these days, and saunas and everything else. Well, I've been doing that stuff since the 90s. So this isn't anything new to me. I've been taking cold baths for a long time. I've been talking my teammates into it and everything else. So when you expose yourself for short periods of time to like a cold bath or something like that, that's putting a little bit of a red arrow in there, but at the same time, you're encouraging your body to become stronger to tolerate more. Okay. And another way to look at this is like sunshine. So we all know what happens if you spend too much time in the sun, you get a sunburn. But if you spend short periods of time in the sun every day, well, then you get a sun tan, and eventually you can stay out in the sun for a lot longer period of time and never get burnt. So that's how we actually develop the ability to deal with the stresses in our life. So, and that's where we need to make sure that we're getting appropriate dosages so that we can manage them through our other lifestyle factors and maintain a balance. So if we are working all of the time and never resting, well, then you're not going to build up a tolerance to the workload. You're just going to eventually collapse one day, and so I can't handle anymore. So we need to have a balance to build up a tolerance. And everybody kind of has a little bit different tolerances depending upon what they've been exposed to, but we can all improve upon them. But it's a matter of managing the balances and also managing all of them. So if you're always causing stress to all of these all of the time, well, it's going to be hard to dissipate all of that stress out of the body. All right. So that's stress for you. Okay. And that's why we have the funnel of all that stress coming into the body. Then we've got a green arrow coming out the other side for us managing that stress. But we want to be very careful to not overload it. So now we are going to start into the totem pole. So the totem pole of health and performance starts at the top. And at the very top of the totem pole, we have this little white bird up here at the very top. And this white bird represents your psyche, which can also be related to things like your mindset, okay, and how you think about things. And a lot of that comes from what you've been exposed to in your life and what you've been taught. And then it also deals with archetypes, which I'm going to get into more, especially in my online program, my holistic lifestyle mastery coaching program that I offer up. And archetypes are basically the way that we think we should be. So archetypes of like an athlete or a parent or a business person, different things like that. And we all have different things that resonate well with us. And then it represents our dreams and our goals in life and what we want to accomplish, as well as our value set and what values are important to us. And same thing, our values are developed through the people that raised us and the people that were around and our experiences in life. So those are like the big aspects of what that represents, as well as this second part just below the wings of the bird, because the wings of the bird are all folded out and spread out like it's flying. So right underneath the wings, you'll see that there are some dark patches there. And that is to represent our shadow self. And that is the self that maybe you've heard people talking more about as of late. That is the part that we necessarily don't like about ourselves. And maybe the part that we try to hide, or the part that we try to forget about, or the part that we try to bury underneath everything else. And it's not a bad part of us. All that really is trying to show us is where we really want to grow and where we want to move forward. And so we want to be working on our shadow self and taking the time to stop and go, okay, I really don't like it when I lose my temper and freak out over things that I really shouldn't lose my temper and freak out about. Okay. So we can practice that and work on that. We can read about it. We can work with a coach and find out, different tools that we can practice to become better at things like that. So that dark area underneath the wings represents that shadow self and the things of us that we don't necessarily like. And it can also represent the negative archetypes that are out there that I will go more into in a future video. The psyche also represents our thoughts, which also represents our spirit and our soul. Okay, so our spirit and our soul, all of this, it's all our higher self. It's all the way we think and the way that we want to be and represent as a human being. And so this is at the very top of the totem pole because it can affect everything else down below the totem pole. So if I have no dreams and no goals and a very negative outlook on life, and my thought process is always, why me, or nothing ever works right, or total negative mindset, and I can never do X, Y, or Z, well, it's going to affect everything else down in my body in the totem pole. I'm not going to want to get out of bed. I'm not going to have energy. My muscles aren't going to work right. My digestive system and my other organs aren't going to work right. So I'm not going to process my food. And the whole works down below. So we always need to be paying attention to where our psyche is and where our mindset is first. So if somebody comes to me, as an example, with a shoulder problem or a knee problem or a hip problem and that sort of thing, I will start working on doing the physical things that I need to do to start helping to balance out those joints again. But at the same time, I'm going to be asking questions. So I've had this happen a few times. So one time I had this lady come to me and she had problems in her right shoulder. And there was some damage in there and some scar tissue and things like that that needed to be addressed. And we started working on that. But while I was working on that, I started asking questions. And it turned out that she had a boyfriend living with her that she just couldn't stand anymore. And their relationship had come to an end, but she really wasn't motivated to say, hey, it's time to move on, and you need to move out of my house and go someplace else. And so fairly early on, after a couple of weeks, I said, hey, you really need to make some decisions about your relationship, because it's causing you stress, because it's negative psyche in your head. You're always saying, oh my gosh, here I am. I got to wake up with this person again and spend another day with this person, even though they're driving me up the wall and I really can't deal with it anymore. And so it's disrupting their psyche, their mindset. It's creating a shadow self in them of not taking action on something they don't like. That person was destroying their dreams and their goals and their values. So ruining their whole psyche. And I said, you're really going to get bigger results with your shoulder if you go into counseling with your boyfriend and try to resolve the relationship or end the relationship and just, take it for, hey, it's done. It's time to move on. So about 4 weeks later, she ended the relationship. And prior to that, we would work on her shoulder, and her shoulder would feel great that day. But by the next day, it would already be in pain again. And one day she walked in and she said, hey, guess what? My shoulder feels just as good as it did when I walked out last time because I kicked my boyfriend out. So that is an example of how this works, of making sure that you are following the hierarchy of the totem pole. And therefore, if you have physical problems in the body, which is lower down, which we'll get to, that you are taking care of things at the top of the totem pole. All right. So that's the top thing: psyche, mindset, spirit, soul, goals, values, dreams, and all these things I work on deeply in my holistic lifestyle mastery coaching program. So if you want to learn more about that, go to my website and check out the downloads, the online programs, and you can view it there. So now we'll move on to the second thing down, which is life balance. So also up here at the top of the totem pole, so just above the bird's head, we have the sun. And then over here on the left-hand side, it's not super easy to see, but we have a little moon, and that is to represent balance. So no matter where you are on the planet, there is always a balance between time in the sun and time with dark and or the moon. And that, the people that are at the North Pole, they get a whole bunch of sunlight in the summertime, or when the Earth is tipped towards the sun. And then the other half of the year, they get very little sunlight when the Earth is pointing, or when the top side of the Earth is pointing away from the sun. So, and then people along the equator pretty much get the same time all year round. Okay, so it doesn't matter where you live on the planet, everybody gets the same amount of time. They just get it in different doses. So, and we need to focus on that same sort of balance in our life. So there's the sun and moon kind of representing. So the sun is, this also kind of goes with yin and yang. So if you've seen the yin yang symbol, the whole little black and white circular symbol, and there's a little black dot in the middle of the white, and there's a little white dot in the middle of the black, and that's because you can't have one without the other. We all have it. And so there's sun, there's moon. The sun is yang, it's hot and fiery. And there's the moon, it's cool and more relaxing. And so down here, I also have the same thing of work and rest. So work is our yang and rest is our yin. We have play and rest. And I put these in here very specifically because people talk about how they work a whole lot, but they want to play. Well, the opposite of both work and play is rest. And therefore, it's great to want to work a whole bunch and want to play a whole bunch, but you also need to make sure that you have enough rest to counterbalance them both. And I know this very well because I enjoy my work very much, and I also really enjoy to play. So I love playing all my sports and preparing to play all my sports. And so I have to be very important about my rest time. Okay. And then other people that also know that, I like jumping in the flight simulator a little bit too. So, but if I sit there and jump in the flight simulator and spend all nighttime in the flight simulator, well, I'm not getting any rest, and therefore I'm not going to be able to work or play the next day very well. And after a while, it will be really, really bad. And my body will start telling me with pain. So then down below that, we have hot and cold. And same kind of thing goes like I was talking about before. It's kind of like the same thing with stress. You know, we need a little bit of hot, we need a little bit cold, we need a little bit of in between so that we have balance. Down below that, we have female and male. Okay. Every male has some female in them. Every female has some male in them. We all have different amounts, but there's a balance in everything. We have wet, we have dry, and we have anabolic, and we have catabolic. Catabolic is like working out. It's breaking down the tissue. But then we need to have the anabolic time, the recovery time, so that we can grow the tissue back, so that the tissue can grow back stronger, so that we can do more. And you can learn more about this in some of my more like physical exercise type videos. But if you are not able to improve 1 to 3% from one workout session to the same workout session the next time you do it, you're not spending enough time on your anabolic recovery. So you should have improvement there from one session to the next session. It's only 1%, so that's like 1 repetition. So like if you're able to do 10 repetitions one time, well, then you should be able to do 11 the next time. And if you really can't, and especially if you can only get 9 the next time, well, then you are definitely not recovered enough. I first learned about this a lot with Charlie Francis, famous track and field coach, because he was big on making sure that his athletes rested enough. And if they came out onto the field and they started warming up and he saw that they weren't springy enough like they should be, he sent them home and said, "You're not working out today." So it's very important. And this goes in every aspect. And so this is also why I put that whole stress funnel down here to the left at the bottom of the totem pole, because I want you to realize that it's balance. We must maintain balance in our life. It's why I take a good 4 to 6 weeks of vacation time to play my sports and play with the family, and sometimes just get quality rest in. Well, I get quality rest during those times anyway, but you know, sometimes it's just the fact that I just want to go hang out on the beach for a few days and just walk on the beach and re-energize my body. And it's the same thing of where, you know, thankfully I work for myself. So if I'm working too hard and playing too hard, I just schedule a day off and say, I just got to have a day off. Got to maintain the balance. So once again, highly important up here at the top. If I get out of balance, I'm going to want to go eat junk food. I'm going to go on eat sugar. I'm going to want to like try to like pump more food in my body to make up for the fact that I'm not allowing my body to recover. So that is just one example of why that balance is so important. So because when we don't have that balance, it makes us do things that we know we really shouldn't be doing. And I do it too. And I catch it and I go, oh, wait, can't do that. So, and I get more into this as we go through the 1, 2, 3, 4 steps of improving your lifestyle, which will be another video. All right, so let's move on here to now the next part of the totem pole, which is this little skull that is actually breathing. And so you can see air coming out of the nostrils of this little skull, which is right underneath the bird and the shadow underneath the wings. So, and this is respiration and or breathing. And the big note I want everybody to make is that the air is coming out of the nose. Okay. When we're exercising hard, it's fine to breathe out of the mouth, in and out of the mouth, and that sort of thing. Although studies have shown if you train really well and properly, it takes a lot of practice. You can do all of your training breathing in and out of your nose, and you should be able to do that. But it's very difficult and not many people are capable of doing it. I'm able to do it at a fairly high level, but not as high of a level that I can actually maintain for a fairly decent period of time. So, but breathing in and out of the nose is incredibly important. So, because it stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, Okay, sympathetic is stress, parasympathetic is recover. So once again, it goes back to that balance. So now the things below will help balance the things above. So when we breathe properly, it can help their body go more yin and calming and relaxing. So very, very important that we breathe in and out through the nose. Oxygen is our primary source of energy, not food, not calories, not sugar, none of that stuff. Oxygen. If your body, if you stop breathing and you don't get oxygen, cells start dying in 3 minutes, and you're typically brain dead within 5 to 6 minutes. So oxygen is what everything runs on. So that's what it's got to do all of the time. And that's why we breathe over 25,000 times a day. So we need to be very good at it and not have poor posture, which is why I have this little diagram here of people with a big forward head posture. And you can see the tilted pelvis here on the right, that's all tilted forward. And then we've marked like all of the areas where muscles are working extra hard because of, and where people typically will get pain because of this posture. They'll get pain behind the jaw here. They'll get pain in the forehead, around the eyes. They'll get pain in the back of the skull and the occipital muscles. They'll get pain around the collarbone because everything's tipped forward there and it's starting to crush the nerve roots that go through there. The upper back area gets stretched out and weak. And so that typically becomes painful. The low back will typically start to get tight and short and become very painful because of that pelvis tip forward. And then even for just, for those of you wanting to look better, this person here on the right, the tummy's all pooched out because their pelvis is all tipped forward. The chest is all dropped down. So a lot of times I'll have women come to me and they're saying, oh yeah, I want to be, have better posture and I want my breasts to not sag and everything like that. Well, a lot of that is simply the fact that they're not standing up with proper posture and they're not have the muscles in the proper place to actually hold everything in place. And all you really got to do is just pull it all together, which is also why I have this diagram over here on the right, which is a person standing up with a line going right down the side of their body. Because when we put a plumb line on the body, it should go right through the center of the top of the head, right over the top of the ear hole, right through the center of the shoulder joint, right through the center of the hip joint. And then this is just a little bit off on the diagram. I couldn't find one that was like actually perfect, but this line shouldn't really go right through the middle of the foot. It should be a little bit closer back to the actual ankle joint. So not through the center of it, but it should be back closer to the ankle joint. So, and that would be ideal posture. And all movement should start from really good and end with really good posture. All right. And that's why I also gave the little diagram of poor posture down here at the bottom with the person sitting at their computer and they're slumped backwards so that their backside is really far forward in the chair. Their heels aren't even touching the ground, most likely because their calves are really tight down through here. Their belly is all pooched out. Their back is all rounded. Their head is pushed forward. And then they're reaching out there trying to, reach the keys on the keyboard. So really poor posture in that aspect of things. So the other big aspects of breathing and why it's so important, we get down to metabolism. Yes, metabolism. So when we eat food, that food needs to oxidize. That requires oxygen. So if we are not breathing properly, guess what? We're going to want to eat more food. So if you want to lose weight, you need to be breathing properly so that you can actually metabolize and digest your food properly so that then you don't feel so hungry because you're actually extracting all of the nutrients out of your food the way that you should. The other big part in digestion is every time you breathe using your diaphragm, and there's many other videos on my channel about breathing, so go and check those out. I will put at least one of them in the description down below, is that every time you inhale and fill that diaphragm all the way up in the belly, and then exhale and have that relax, you're actually massaging your organs and giving your organs a little pump so that you keep them good and healthy. And you're pumping the digestive system and creating that motion to move the fecal matter through your digestive system. A lot of people, and there's, the last time I looked, it was between $3 and $4 million a day are spent on laxatives in the United States alone. So a lot of the reason why people have issues with going to the bathroom is because they simply don't breathe. They sit in this poor posture, like this person down here on the desk, and they can't use their diaphragm because their chest is all collapsed down and their back is all rounded out, and they can't fill that all the way up with air. And they can't drive their organs and move their organs. And as we get farther down the totem pole, you're going to see how important our organs are, because they're pretty high up in the totem pole too. So very important to breathe properly there as well. And then we get into that whole anabolic, and it's very anabolic to breathe properly. It allows you to rest and recover. Like I said, it's very parasympathetic for the body, which means rest and digest and recover so that you can play harder, work harder, think harder, and all that kind of stuff. And then it's really important for posture. So, and this is what will end up happening if you aren't breathing correctly. Your body will do everything it possibly can to try to breathe correctly. So some people, just simply from not breathing correctly, their head will come forward even though they don't put themselves in that posture, simply because it's just trying to get the head forward more so that it can get the mouth open more so that it can get more air in and out of the respiratory system. So there's so many different aspects of it, including it will move things around in your spine in all sorts of crazy positions. And so I can't get into great detail on it because I can go on and on and on and on and on. Great book out there called Breathe. That one's really awesome to read, and many others out there. But you'll find that most people are talking about how important it is to breathe these days, and simply because no one's really spending the time to do it anymore. And it's very important. Okay, so that's that area of the totem pole. And now we move down to the next section of the totem pole, which is another skull. But now we have, I don't know, some people say this is a giant tongue coming out of the mouth of this skull. I say it kind of looks more like a fish, with the head of the fish in the mouth and the tail of the fish coming out. I can't remember exactly what Paul, if he said that was a tongue or a fish, but I think it's a fish. So, and the important things here is the first part is mastication, okay, which means chewing and moving your mouth. And that is because we have teeth in our mouth, and our teeth need to fit together correctly. And so if you've ever had a seed get stuck in between your teeth or something like that, and you go and you close your teeth and it feels like so uncomfortable and you're like, oh my God, I can't chew and that sort of thing. That's because your body is telling you, hey, don't do that. You're going to disrupt the whole rest of your body if you start chewing with that seed in there, because chewing is survival. You need to bring the nutrition in, not for energy. We need to remember that energy comes from oxygen primarily. But what we need from food is our cells are breaking down all of the time, and we need to replace them. Our blood is new like every 2 weeks. So we need to bring things in, and we need to chew them and bring that nutrition in. Every cell in your body is made from protein, water, and saturated fat and omega-3 fatty acids primarily. So we need to bring those things into the body regularly so that we can replace the cells that are dying every single day, as well as the vitamins and the minerals and the enzymes and all those other things that help you digest your food, as well as help with the process of regenerating your cells. So very important. And that's why I have TMJ on here. So people with TMJ problems need to make sure that we take a look at that. We resolve that. Do we have TMJ problems because we have our head turned to the side while we're eating our food, you know, like we're looking at a TV on the side while we're chewing our food or things like that? Or are our teeth out of alignment because we have misaligned teeth? Very important to go to the dentist and have them take a look and make sure your teeth are in good alignment, and get orthodontia work done if it's needed. I couldn't tell you how much orthodontia work done when I was a kid, simply because poor nutrition. That's all in the book Nutrition and Physical Degeneration by Weston A. Price. Whole nother topic. All right, so jaw alignment, let's say I covered that. Teeth. Your teeth are highly important. Your teeth are actually little crystals. So we want to make sure that we take care of them. And every tooth in your mouth is actually attached to an organ in your body. And so commonly, if people have particular problems in particular teeth, it can be related to a particular organ in the body, because each one of those teeth is surrounded by ligaments holding it in place. And so the teeth are super important. Cavities primarily happen because people eat too much sugar, and sugar changes the pH balance in the mouth. So when there's too much sugar in the mouth, the pH balance changes, and instead of the fluids flowing from the tip of the teeth down to the root of the teeth and out, the pH balance flip-flops in the mouth and the flow goes the opposite direction. And so now you get bacteria from the mouth that floats up into the tooth and works its way up in there. And if that happens too frequently, then you start getting cavities and all sorts of other issues. All right. The other big part of this one is nutrition. So, and I am more of an emphasis on this than Paul probably, but that's only because the quality of people's nutrition needs to be really great. So eating really super awesome food that comes from Mother Nature, not all this processed garbage and powdery garbage and all this other kind of stuff. We need to eat real food, which is why down here at the bottom of the slide, I put meats and vegetables and eggs and fruit, and I didn't put any fish on here, but fish and all that kind of stuff, but all things that come from Mother Nature in their whole form, not ground up or made into vegetable chips or any other weird things like that, or juice or things. You know, you need to eat the whole thing. You can cook them, that's fine. Don't overcook them, but you need to eat all of it in its true form, because all the different colors and everything else all have different vitamin values and nutrients and minerals and enzymes, and we need them all to build all those cells in our body. So once again, if somebody comes to me and they're having problems with joints and muscles and everything else, and they're not eating all these good quality foods, I can't really help them too much, because they're not going to rebuild the tissue correctly if it's made out of pizza. Sorry to rip on pizza, but it's the worst food out there in my book. So, and I used to eat it too. So, but I don't eat it anymore, and I haven't for a long time. So, very important that we eat really good, great food, and we hydrate with really great, clean water. You will find many videos on my channel and on my website all about food and hydration and how you do all of that. Okay. And then lastly, we get down to the rule of thirds, which I threw in here because we have this nice young girl next to the totem pole here with a great smile, because I wanted to show off the teeth and how the teeth are all straight and she has a good smile. She has good bone structure, good jaw structure. She's very symmetrical, one side of her face to the other side of her face. And then the rule of thirds is as follows. So if you look at her and you look at the distance between the bottom of the chin and just below her nose, right to where you're touching the bottom of her nose, that is the same distance as if you go from that point at the bottom of her nose to right between her eyebrows. So that would be the middle third. And then the top third is from between those eyebrows to the top, or to the, the bottom of the hairline, basically. So not where her bangs are all hanging down, but where her hair actually grows out of, way up here at the top. So she is very symmetrical in those thirds. Those thirds are very close, and your teeth have to be together like hers are, so that you can actually tell that that's the bottom third, this is the middle third, and this is the top third. And when you look at people, a lot of times, so this is all developed while you're in the womb in your mother. So it's very important for moms to be incredibly nourished a minimum of 2 to 3 years before they even get pregnant, because all of that nutrition is going to get sucked out of them to make that kid. And one of the reasons why I had tons of orthodontia work done is because my mother was not very nourished while she was pregnant with me. So, and I have exact examples of this. My very oldest brother, who's 11 years older than me, my mom still lived at home when she was pregnant with my brother. And he has very strong, dense bones. Well, I guess he's broken a couple of bones, but only because of severe impact. And he's straight teeth, didn't have any orthodontia work. And this is all kind of covered in that whole nutrition and physical degeneration book. And my second brother, who is only a year younger than my oldest brother, lots of crooked teeth, a very short middle third here. And that was because at the time, my mother and her husband at the time did not have a lot of money, and they lived on Kool-Aid and potatoes. And potatoes aren't bad, but they don't carry near enough protein in them to keep all the structures developed. And so my second brother was behind the curve simply because of that. My sister, who's 4 years older than I am, my family was in Greece at the time when my mother was pregnant with my sister. That's where she was born, was Greece, because my father was a Navy Seabee. So, and that's where they were stationed at the time. And so she ate the Mediterranean diet. Lots of seafood, lots of other good meats, lots of good fresh vegetables, all that kind of great stuff. Good nutritional lifestyle habits. And my sister, very dense bones, very heavy bones, really straight teeth, good facial structure and jaw structure, and nice equal thirds, bottom, middle, and top. Me, on the other hand, that point in time, my dad was stationed in Adak, Alaska, which is the second to last island in the Aleutian chain. And everything was brought in by boat, and most of it was powdered and dried and garbagey processed food. And that's what we all ate. And this is actually one of the main reasons why I actually lost my vision. Yes, I'm blind, because I was vitamin B deficient by the age of 2. Because there just wasn't enough nutrition coming in. So my middle third is very short. And so it doesn't look so much that way now, because I had massive orthodontia work as a child, thankfully, and had metal plates put in the roof of my mouth that expanded it all out so that there was room for everything to grow in and to fit and all that other kind of good stuff. So this is why this is so important to look at. And then one of the first things I look at is skull structure in all of my clients that walk in the door, because it tells me how well they started off in life in the first place. Because someone that has really good skull structure like this girl here, I know I'm going to be able to fix them a lot quicker than someone that has messed up thirds, and that their middle third is too short, or their bottom third is too short, or sometimes you'll even see it as the top third, but most commonly it's the middle third. And the other problem with that middle third, if that's too short, that means they have a hard time breathing too. All right, so it's a whole nother aspect that we run into. So that's all I'm going to cover for today. That's going to be part 1. So in quick little recap, we have here at the top, we've got Psyche, We've got the shadow self that we need to work on, the part that we don't really like about ourselves. We have our balance in life of the sun and the moon, hot, cold, all that. We have respiration, and then down below that we have mastication, and we have nutrition. Those are the top parts. If you have any issue in life at all, that is where we really need to start. And that's where I start my coaching process, especially in my holistic lifestyle mastery coaching program. So please subscribe if you can. I will put the second part to this video in the description down below. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you all next time. Have a wonderful, happy, and healthy day.